Ambassador Talia Zenvari stepped from the interstellar transport, her iridescent skin catching Earth's sunlight in ways that made the Human Welcome Committee gasp. The diplomatic mission from Asteria had been months in preparation, but nothing had prepared the humans for the ethereal beauty of the Asterian delegation. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," said General Rodriguez, extending his hand in the human custom Talia had studied. She took it, feeling the warmth of his five-fingered grip against her four-fingered hand. The Asterian Confederation is honored by Earth's hospitality. What the humans didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that Talia's presence served a dual purpose. While officially she represented Asterian diplomatic interests, unofficially she was promised to King Orion, ruler of the Asterian homeworlds. Their arranged union would cement the royal bloodline and strengthen alliances across 3 star systems. The diplomatic reception that evening was held in a glass-domed observatory, allowing Talia to gaze at the stars that separated her from home. She adjusted the ceremonial binding bracelet on her wrist, the royal insignia hidden beneath ornate metalwork. The weight of it reminded her constantly of her duty. "That constellation looks different from down here," came a voice beside her. Talia turned to find a human man, tall with warm brown skin and curious eyes. Unlike the military and political figures dominating the room, he wore simple formal attire with a badge identifying him as scientific personnel. "Dr. Julian Marcus," he introduced himself. "Earth's xenobiology lead. You recognize Asterian constellations?" Talia asked, genuinely surprised. He smiled, pointing upward. "I've been studying your star charts since first contact. That's Morvatha's wing, isn't it?" Though from Earth, the perspective shifts the formation eastward. For the first time since landing on this strange blue planet, Talia felt something unlock in her chest. Most humans can barely pronounce our star names, let alone identify their patterns. Most humans haven't devoted their lives to understanding other species, Julian replied. Your biological adaptations to cosmic radiation alone revolutionized our understanding of DNA protection mechanisms. What began as polite conversation evolved into an enthusiastic exchange of ideas. Julian's knowledge of Asterian physiology impressed Talia, while his questions showed a respect for her culture few humans had demonstrated. Hours passed like minutes. When General Rodriguez approached to introduce Talia to another diplomat, she realized she'd spent half the reception with a single human. "Ambassador, we should discuss the preliminary treaty points before tomorrow's meeting," Rodriguez said with a pointed look at Julian. "Of course, General." Talia nodded formally to Julian. "It was enlightening, Dr. Marcus." "The pleasure was mine, Ambassador." His eyes conveyed more than his diplomatic words. Later that night, in her private quarters, Talia received a transmission from King Orion himself. "My promised," his holographic form addressed her. "How progresses our mission?" "Smoothly, Your Majesty," she replied, unconsciously touching the binding bracelet. "The humans are receptive to our technological exchange proposals." "Excellent. Remember, your presence there paves the way for our union upon your return. The royal court grows impatient for our joining ceremony." Talia lowered her eyes respectfully. "I serve Asteria's best interests." After the transmission ended, Talia gazed out at Earth's night sky. For the first time in her life, the thought of returning to Asteria brought no joy. Instead, she found herself wondering when she might next speak with Dr. Julian Marcus, and why the prospect made her heart quicken against all logic and duty. The interspecies research facility on the outskirts of Geneva hummed with activity as Talia entered. 2 weeks into her diplomatic mission, she had maneuvered to join the scientific exchange program, officially to evaluate Earth's technological capabilities, unofficially to spend more time around Dr. Julian Marcus. "Ambassador, perfect timing," Julian called from across the lab, his excitement evident as he gestured to a holographic display. "We've isolated the frequency pattern your people use for quantum communication." Talia approached, conscious of the other scientists watching their interaction. "Impressive, Dr. Marcus. Most species take years to comprehend Asterian quantum mechanics. Call me Julian, please, he said quietly. And I had an excellent teacher. Their fingers nearly touched as they both reached to adjust the hologram, and Talia felt that now familiar flutter in her secondary heartbeat. She quickly withdrew her hand, aware of the royal binding bracelet beneath her sleeve. The delegation committee has approved our joint research project, Talia announced, maintaining professional distance. We have 8 Earth weeks to demonstrate practical applications. Julian's smile brightened the sterile lab. 8 weeks together? That's sufficient time for preliminary findings. Over the following days, their necessary collaboration extended into late nights and early mornings. They discussed theoretical physics over coffee at dawn, debated evolutionary biology during lunch breaks, and shared stories of their worlds during quiet moments when the lab emptied. Your description of the crystal forests of Asteria sounds like something from Earth mythology, Julian said one evening as they calibrated equipment. Talia smiled. Perhaps your myths originated from early Asterian visitors. Are you saying ancient aliens built our pyramids? I'm saying perhaps our worlds have been connected longer than either realizes. During one particular midnight research session, Julian brought Talia to the observatory dome where they'd first met. I wanted to show you something, he explained, activating a specialized telescope. It's the Asterian home system from Earth's perspective. The image showed Talia's sun, tiny and distant. It looks so small from here. Yet its light still reaches us, Julian replied softly. When their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them, something that made Talia instinctively touch her binding bracelet. Julian noticed the gesture. That bracelet, you always touch it when you seem troubled. It's a reminder of responsibilities, she answered carefully. Before Julian could inquire further, Talia's communication device chimed urgently. The message was from her second-in-command. King Orion demanded an update on her return timeline. The royal wedding preparations required her presence. Is everything all right? Julian asked, noting her sudden tension. Diplomatic matters, Talia replied, composing herself. Nothing concerning. The next morning, Earth's astronomical alert system detected an asteroid cluster on collision course with the planet, directly threatening the research facility. While Earth's defense systems mobilized, Julian realized the quantum communication technology they'd been developing could be repurposed to disrupt the asteroid's composition. It's theoretical, but if we amplify the quantum frequency. Julian worked frantically at the controls. We'd need an Asterian amplifier, Talia said, making a decision that violated diplomatic protocols. She removed a device from her personal communication equipment. This contains technology not included in our exchange agreements. Julian looked at her, understanding the risk she was taking. Talia, if your government discovers. Then work quickly, Julian. Their eyes locked. Some things are worth the risk. Together, they modified Earth's defense array with Asterian technology. As they worked side by side, shoulders touching, equations flowing between them like poetry, Talia realized a terrifying truth: she was falling in love with this human, and no royal binding could prevent it. The asteroid was successfully diverted, but their triumph was short-lived. That evening, Talia received word that King Orion himself was en route to Earth, concerned about the extended delay in his promised mission. As Talia stared at the message, Julian approached with 2 cups of celebratory coffee. To saving the world, he toasted, unaware of her turmoil. Talia accepted the cup, knowing she had 8 days before her betrothed arrived, 8 days to decide between duty to her kingdom and the unexpected love blooming in her heart. The laboratory's emergency sirens blared as smoke filled the eastern wing. A stabilizer in the quantum communication array had overloaded, creating a cascade failure throughout the research facility. Scientists evacuated in orderly panic, but Talia couldn't find Julian anywhere. Dr. Marcus went back for the prototype data, shouted a lab technician as she rushed past. Without hesitation, Talia turned against the flow of evacuees. Her Asterian physiology offered better protection against smoke and heat than human biology, but even she felt the scorching temperature as she pushed deeper into the failing structure. "Julian," she called, her voice barely audible over the alarms. She found him in the central lab, downloading crucial research files. The ceiling above him groaned ominously. "The building's collapsing. We need to leave now," Talia shouted. Julian grabbed the data core. "Almost done." The world seemed to slow as the ceiling supports gave way. Talia saw the massive beam falling directly toward Julian. Without conscious thought, she lunged forward, but she knew she wouldn't reach him in time. Then Julian was moving, diving toward her instead of away from danger. Their bodies collided as the beam crashed down, and Talia felt his weight push her clear while his own body took the impact. "Julian," she screamed as emergency responders finally reached them. Hours later, Talia paced outside the human medical facility. Julian's condition was critical: spinal damage, internal bleeding, and trauma human medicine struggled to address. "Ambassador," the chief physician approached, her expression grave. "We've stabilized him, but the prognosis is limited. Even if he survives, he may never walk again." Talia's secondary heartbeat stuttered. "I need privacy with Dr. Marcus." "That's not advisable." "It wasn't a request," Talia said, her diplomatic tone hardening into something closer to royal command. Alone with Julian's unconscious form, Talia removed a small device from beneath her binding bracelet, a royal medical module containing advanced Asterian healing technology. Using it on a human violated at least 7 interstellar protocols and the direct orders of King Orion, who had explicitly forbidden sharing Asterian medical technology. "Some vows matter more than others," she whispered, activating the device and placing it against Julian's chest. The healing process would take hours. Talia remained by his side, holding his hand, speaking softly about the crystal forests of her homeworld and how someday, perhaps, she would show them to him. Dawn broke as Julian's eyes finally fluttered open. "Talia," he murmured, confusion evident as he realized he could feel his legs again. "Don't move," she instructed gently. "The healing is still." She stopped, realizing her mistake. Julian's scientific mind quickly processed the implications. "Healing? This isn't human medicine, is it?" Before Talia could explain, her communication device signaled an incoming transmission. King Orion's ship had entered Earth's solar system and would arrive within 12 hours, far earlier than expected. "What's wrong?" Julian asked, noting her sudden tension. Talia's voice remained steady despite her inner turmoil. "Nothing. Rest now." But as she turned to leave, Julian caught her wrist, his thumb brushing against her binding bracelet. "This isn't just diplomatic jewelry, is it? There's more you haven't told me." The moment for truth had arrived sooner than Talia had prepared for. "It's a royal binding bracelet. I am promised to King Orion of Asteria. Our union has been arranged since my emergence ceremony." Julian's face registered shock, then understanding, followed by a carefully constructed neutrality that hurt more than anger would have. "I see. That's why you always deflected personal questions." "Julian, You don't owe me explanations, Ambassador." His use of her formal title felt like a physical blow. "Thank you for whatever you did to heal me. I won't report the protocol violation." Talia wanted to explain the complexity of her situation, how her feelings for him had blindsided her, how she'd never questioned her duty to Asteria until now, but duty reasserted itself. King Orion awaited. The alliance between 3 star systems depended on their union. "I must prepare for King Orion's arrival," she said formally, though her heart ached with each word. Julian nodded, his scientific detachment firmly in place. "Of course. Diplomatic priorities come first." As Talia departed the medical facility, her binding bracelet felt heavier than ever before. Ahead lay her betrothed king, her people's expectations, and her lifelong duty. Behind her lay a wounded human scientist who had somehow captured both her hearts. For the first time in her distinguished diplomatic career, Ambassador Talia Zenvari had no idea how to navigate the opposing forces of duty and desire pulling her in irreconcilable directions. King Orion's royal vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere with theatrical precision, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in dazzling patterns designed to awe the primitive humans. The display of Asterian technological superiority wasn't subtle, nor was it meant to be. Talia stood at the designated landing zone, dressed in formal Asterian regalia that marked her royal status, something she deliberately downplayed during her diplomatic mission. Behind her, Earth's delegation included military officials, politicians, and scientific representatives. Julian stood among the latter group, his face unreadable as he watched the ship land. When King Orion emerged, gasps rippled through the human observers. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shifted colors like liquid mercury, he embodied Asterian genetic perfection. His royal crown, a living symbiotic organism, pulsed with bioluminescence that matched his emotional state, currently a cool, confident blue. "My promised," Orion's voice resonated as he approached Talia. Without warning, he took her hand and pulled her into a formal embrace, his lips pressing against hers in the Asterian binding ritual. Talia maintained her diplomatic composure despite her inner turmoil. From the corner of her eye, she saw Julian turn away from the display. "Your Majesty," she said formally after the kiss ended, "Earth welcomes you." Orion barely acknowledged the human delegation with a cursory nod. "Our union ceremony awaits, Talia. My patience grows thin after these delays." General Rodriguez stepped forward, diplomatic smile firmly in place despite the king's rudeness. "We've arranged a reception to honor your Majesty's arrival. Perhaps afterward." "I require private counsel with my promised," Orion interrupted. Asterian matters supersede human hospitality. Once alone in the diplomatic quarters, Orion's regal facade dropped. "You've been avoiding communication, Talia. Explain yourself." "The scientific collaboration proved more complex than anticipated," she replied carefully. Orion's crown flashed amber with suspicion. "Yes, this collaboration with the human scientist. Dr. Marcus, is it not?" Talia's secondary heartbeat faltered. "He's been instrumental in capturing your attention?" Orion moved closer, his height allowing him to tower over her. "The royal court whispers of your extended stays in his laboratory, your private meetings." "The court is misinformed," Talia maintained her composure. "Our work has strategic value for Asteria." "Does it?" Orion's fingers traced the binding bracelet on her wrist. "Then explain why you used royal medical technology on this human." "Did you think I wouldn't know?" Cold fear washed through Talia. Such monitoring violated diplomatic protocols, but challenging Orion would only confirm his suspicions. "He was injured saving my life," she said simply. "And you compromised Asterian security for gratitude?" Orion's crown pulsed red. "Or something more?" Before Talia could respond, an urgent message arrived. The human delegation requested King Orion's presence regarding an urgent matter. Julian would be presenting evidence of something discovered in their research. In the conference room, Julian stood with composed professionalism despite the tension. "Your Majesty, while working with Ambassador Talia, we discovered unusual energy signatures originating from Asterian communication with Earth." He displayed data showing pattern analysis. "These contain encrypted commands to Earth's resource monitoring stations, specifically targeting our rare mineral deposits and water reserves." Talia felt her blood freeze as she recognized the signature, royal encryption that only King Orion could authorize. "What exactly are you implying, human?" Orion's crown flashed dangerous crimson. "I'm not implying anything," Julian replied calmly. I'm stating that someone with Asterian royal encryption is gathering strategic resource information beyond our established agreements. All eyes turned to King Orion, whose expression remained imperious. These human concerns are beneath royal attention. Ambassador Talia, prepare for departure. Our wedding ceremony awaits. Julian's eyes finally met Talia's. Ambassador, there's one more thing. He handed her a data crystal. The complete findings. I thought you should have them before you leave. As their fingers touched during the exchange, Julian whispered words only she could hear. I know what he's planning. Be careful. That night, while King Orion attended a formal diplomatic function, Talia examined the data crystal. It contained irrefutable evidence. Orion had been planning a resource acquisition operation disguised as a scientific exchange. Their marriage would give him legal access to Earth's resources through obscure interstellar property laws. Her communication device chimed, Julian requesting a meeting at their observatory. Against all protocol and duty, Talia went. You know what this means, Julian said when she arrived, gesturing to the stars. He's using your marriage as a legal smokescreen for resource theft. I know, Talia's voice was barely audible. You have a choice, Talia. Julian stepped closer but didn't touch her. Return with him as planned, or what? She challenged, emotions finally breaking through her diplomatic facade. Betray my people? Abandon my duty? Or find a third path, Julian replied gently. One that serves both worlds without sacrificing yourself. As dawn approached, Talia watched Earth's sun rise, knowing she faced the most consequential decision of her diplomatic career, and her personal life. Tomorrow, King Orion expected to depart with his bride-to-be. But for the first time, Talia's loyalty to Asteria conflicted with her duty to protect interstellar peace, and her growing certainty that she could no longer deny what her heart felt for a brilliant human scientist. The grand conference chamber fell silent as Talia entered. On one side sat Earth's delegation, General Rodriguez, various diplomats, and Julian, whose eyes carried both concern and something deeper. On the opposite side, King Orion and his royal advisors waited impatiently, the king's symbiotic crown pulsing with irritated orange hues. We've waited long enough, Orion announced. The departure ceremony should have begun an hour ago. Talia took her position at the center of the room rather than beside her betrothed. Before any departures, there are matters that require resolution. She activated a holographic display containing the evidence Julian had compiled, along with additional data she'd gathered overnight. This shows unauthorized resource probing and preliminary extraction planning, activities outside our treaty agreements. Orion's crown flashed crimson. Ambassador, you forget yourself. Royal matters are not for public discussion. I speak not as you're promised, but as Asteria's appointed ambassador to Earth, Talia replied, her voice steady though both her hearts raced. And as such, I've discovered a treaty violation that threatens interstellar peace. She displayed the specific resource acquisition protocols hidden within seemingly innocent scientific exchanges. These were embedded in our communications, Your Majesty. Communications only you could authorize. The Earth delegation murmured in concern as they processed the implications. Julian remained silent, his presence a pillar of quiet strength. You would betray your own people? Orion's voice dropped dangerously. Your own promised king? I betray no one by telling the truth. Talia removed her binding bracelet and placed it on the conference table. And I propose an alternative path forward. From her diplomatic case, she extracted a document she'd spent the night preparing. A new treaty framework, one that allows for mutual resource exchange without conquest or coercion. One that benefits both worlds equally. Julian leaned forward, studying the proposed terms with scientific precision. General Rodriguez and the Earth delegation whispered among themselves. This is treasonous, Orion declared, standing to his full height. Without our union, Asteria loses standing among the three systems alliance. Not necessarily, Talia countered. She revealed another document, communications from the other two systems in the alliance, obtained through diplomatic channels she'd cultivated over years. They too have concerns about resource appropriation. They would welcome transparent cooperation instead. The Earth delegation, sensing advantage, began reviewing Talia's proposal with renewed interest. And what of our arranged union? Orion demanded, his voice carrying both anger and a hint of wounded pride. The royal line requires continuation. Your Majesty is free to choose another promised, Talia replied. One whose hearts are not divided. Understanding dawned in Orion's silver eyes as they flicked toward Julian. The human scientist met the alien king's gaze without flinching. For several tense moments, the chamber remained silent as Orion considered his options. His advisors whispered urgently in his ear. Finally, his crown shifted to a contemplative blue-green. Perhaps, he conceded reluctantly, transparent cooperation has certain advantages. Over the next several hours, the new treaty took shape. Earth would share specified resources and receive Asterian technology in return, including limited medical advancements. Talia would remain as permanent ambassador, ensuring continued diplomatic relations. As the formal signing concluded, Orion approached her privately. You realize what you've given up? The royal line. Your position in Asterian hierarchy. And gain something else in return, Talia replied quietly. Orion studied her with ancient eyes. This human, he cannot give you what Asteria can. Your lifespans are incompatible. Your biology's divergent. Some differences are worth navigating, she answered. To her surprise, Orion's crown flickered with reluctant respect. You were always the most formidable diplomat in the three systems, Talia. Perhaps that's why I wanted you as my queen. After the delegations dispersed, Julian found Talia on the observatory deck where they'd first truly connected, her gaze fixed on the distant point of light that was Asteria. So, he said, joining her at the railing, permanent ambassador? Someone needs to ensure both worlds fulfill their obligations, she replied, a smile playing at her lips. Julian's hand found hers, their different number of fingers intertwining perfectly despite their alien anatomies. And the king? Will he cause problems? Orion respects strength and strategic thinking, even when it counters his own. It's why he chose me as his promised in the first place. She turned to face Julian fully. But there are complications. As he pointed out, our lifespans don't align naturally. My biology is. Julian smiled and produced a small data crystal. Funny thing about having access to Asterian medical technology, even briefly. I found some fascinating possibilities for genetic compatibility adjustments. Talia laughed, a sound of pure joy she hadn't allowed herself in years of diplomatic service. Are you proposing a research project, Dr. Marcus? I'm proposing whatever you want to call it, he replied, suddenly serious. A project. A partnership. A future. Under the light of two worlds, one near and one impossibly distant, Talia made her choice. As their lips met, breaking at least 3 minor interstellar protocols, she realized that sometimes, the most diplomatic solution was simply to follow one's hearts. Aboard his departing vessel, King Orion watched Earth recede, his crown shifting through thoughtful colors. The treaty was actually more advantageous than his original plan, less resource gain, perhaps, but far less risk of resistance. And watching his former promised find her own path carried an unexpected satisfaction. Set course for Asteria, he commanded. And update the royal matchmaking protocols. It seems our criteria need adjustment. As his ship accelerated toward the stars, two figures stood watching from Earth's observatory deck, hands intertwined, representatives of different worlds finding common ground in the vast universe that had both separated and united them.